So you are talking of the period to 2018 and 2019,
Yeah.
in which I think the progress should be quickly made.
Correct, and particularly this year, because when you come to 2019, you're already moving into the election cycle.
In this context, what are the main areas the Joint Peace Fund operates in?
Yes. So, I'll say a few words about who we are and what we do. What to me is most fascinating and most worthwhile about this peace process is the way in which it is a domestic peace process. So I have worked in between 15 and 20 other peace processes in the Middle East, in Africa, in South Asia, and in the Far East. This is by far the most prominently self-owned peace process of all the ones I've worked in. That is what, for me, gives real hope to this process, that it is domestically generated and domestically managed. That means that we, as a Joint Peace Fund, are here as servants of Myanmar's own peace process. We do not have our own agenda in that sense. We're here to support the national agenda. Now, we do that in different ways, essentially in three ways. The first is to support the key elements of what I would call the formal peace process. That is the negotiations and the national dialogues, the ceasefire monitoring mechanisms, in other words, the two pillars of the NCA, as well as peacemaking at a societal level. So we have a number of programs that encourage different CSOs and regional-based groups to discuss peace issues, to understand the Myanmar peace process, and to know how they themselves can become involved in it. We also do a lot of research and the dissemination of that research on the Myanmar peace process. Also bringing in interesting examples from other countries' experiences, but focusing primarily on this peace process. Because in our view, not enough information about what's going on is made available to the public in a form that is digestible. So those are the three main things that we focus on. And of those, up to this point, the maximum emphasis has gone into supporting the formal process. So we provide support to the government, to the NRPC. We provide support to also to the signatories. We provide support to ENAC in preparation for joining the peace process. We are available to anybody interested in peacemaking who wishes to have our support, and our support can consist of logistical support, technical assistance, and advice. We have quite a large staff here who are experienced both within Myanmar and outside in peace process work, and who are therefore able to interact with all of the players on demand, if you like, insofar as those services are requested.
How much this question of development before peace, development after peace, or development while peace is building, is crucial in the entire peace process in Myanmar?
Okay. In many countries that I've worked in, the notion of confidence building is essential to a peace process. And I'll come to what you're asking me in a second, if you'll bear with me. What happens when there is war, and particularly prolonged war, is there is a fundamental breakdown of trust. Authorities, either government authorities or non-government authorities, have as one of their main challenges to re-establish citizen trust. And that citizen trust is going to be trust in institutions, trust in one another, and trust in their governing authorities. One of the best ways of re-establishing trust is to provide some sort of tangible benefit. Now, that benefit can be many things depending on what it is that people need most. Often it's security. Sometimes it's justice. But also, very often, it is economic development. It's not always economic development. I think trust has to be addressed in relation to the issue that causes mistrust in the first place, or where injustice is most deeply felt. But in cases where that has an economic component, let's say you have a generation of unemployed young men and young women with nothing very much to do, nursing grievances against whatever system put them in that place, then there is a very powerful role for economic development and job creation, either direct job creation through government activity or indirect through private investment. So that part of the peacemaking process can be extremely important. I think it would be a mistake to think that that is the golden key to peacemaking. It's not. The golden key is usually to do with justice, and very often also with feeling safe. But when I go back to the work that we did on global conflict, we did say in our conclusion, as a sort of formula, jobs, justice, and security. So in the Myanmar case, I do think that the space for economic development as an aspect of the peace process is extremely important. It's not something the Joint Peace Fund does. The reason for that is that this is an expensive business, and there are many conventional donors and government departments who are very experienced in providing health services, infrastructure, job creation, and so forth. It would not make sense for us to try and duplicate what they're doing, but we certainly support it.
What do you think of with regards to the desire and political commitment of main actors and stakeholders in Myanmar peace process? How important this commitment of each of these actor and stakeholder for the peace process?
I think in any peace process, people have different interests. The longer that a conflict continues, the more varied and in some cases perverse those incentives can become. In a conflict of this kind, unfortunately, there are many leaders whose interests remain with continued conflict or continued stalemate. There are, of course, many other leaders in all factions who want something different, who understand that peace benefits not only their people, but benefits them as power holders and leaders. What you would hope is that eventually those people will outnumber and overwhelm people for whom there is too much interest in continuing things as they are.
I'd like to go one specific question. The peace process in Myanmar, it is very much a political question. It's
Yes.
very much a political issue, and linked with the right to self-determination of many nationalities or minority nationalities. And many are saying this cannot be done without amending the 2008 constitution. which apparently the government in power is also taking the line. So will that be practical enough to see that kind of changes? Unless you amend the country's current constitution, the political solution cannot be achieved. That is also one line of thinking very strongly. So what do you think of that particular specific question?
Well, I think that as we started in the interview, the theme of this next UPC is about changing the constitution. When we're talking about a federalist system that will help bring an end to the war, we're clearly talking about something different from what you have today. What that looks like, I could not say. And it's not my place to say either. But there is, I think, clarity in the minds of many of those going into those discussions that a viable form of federalism, something in which the country will retain its union, but in which different ethnic or otherwise differentiated groups will have their full rights, is something that has to come out of that process.
Last question, what is the role of media in the Myanmar peace process? How media can play a role actively to help bring the peace in the country?
I think the role of the media is extremely important. How citizens form their views is largely dependent on media. There are, of course, many forms of media today, including extremely active social media. Social media often reinforces one's pre-existing judgments and positions, and therefore sometimes does not play such a healthy role as mainstream media can. But if we're talking particularly about mainstream media, it seems to me essential that you have a media in Myanmar, and this is a national media, that disseminates facts and information so that people, ordinary citizens, are given the power to make up their mind about what is true and what is false and what they should support and what they should reject.
Is there anything you would like to add for our viewers and readers?
Only that it has been an immense privilege to be able to work in this country for the last 6 months and to have the opportunity to act as a witness and hopefully as a supporter of a peace process that has great potential as long as the leaders maintain the moral courage necessary to see it through to its conclusion.
Thank you so much
for
your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.